So right now we're going to move on to our next topic, and we're going to go to disappointing fight of the year. Second, this is a new topic we brought over here in our group. Disappointing fight of the year. I'm going to go to Chris Caban first. Chris Caban, disappointing fight of the year. Who you got?
Deontay Wilder and Malik Scott. We was down. We was all talking about that Malik Scott was going to get a guy some rounds. He came over in a damn weigh-in with a paper bag over his head, talking a little junk, got in there and took a dive.
Yeah. That hurts me. That hurts me because Malik being a Muslim name, which actually means king. That's why his nickname is King. For people who don't know, Malik means king. That's why his nickname is King. But let me ask you: do you think that he purposely took the dive for his friend because it's well known that they're very good friends, or do you think when he got in there and felt the power, he just didn't want no parts of it? What's your opinion?
He felt the wind go by his head, and he said, "I'm out of here." He took the dive. He didn't want to taste that level.
Yeah, I seem to agree with you on that one. I had to stop defending Malik Scott. I tried my hardest, but I had to stop defending him. So let me move on to UK boxing blogger. Who's your disappointing fight of the year?
I'm just going to have to say an obvious one from a UK perspective again, but it was a world perspective. I know a lot of American fight fans who was very interested to see Bellew Cleverly 2. They'd even had time to go and watch the first fight against two guys they knew relatively nothing about. So it was a big hype. There was a pay-per-view card on the line. We were debating for ages whether it was pay-per-view worthy or not, because the main event wouldn't hold up. But we thought the undercard was great, but the main event.
Hey Lee, you sound like you're underwater. Like you need to get close to the mic.
Even though it wasn't a fight that meant a lot in title contention status or anything like that, there was a really good backstory to it. It was a big grudge match. Everybody thought the world was going to be set alight. Two guys that hated him were going to come down and throw down a new cruiserweight limit. It's going to give the guys some extra power as well to make it even more exciting. You had Cleverly's work rate against Bellew's power. Which one was going to prevail? They were both going to come at it. And they just never come at it. The whole world was watching that fight, and it shed very bad light on the UK fight scene, and the pay-per-view card as a whole was awful. That fight was just a proper letdown, man. I can't really say anything more, man.
I got a follow-up question. Being that, like you said, the whole world was watching, and me being an abnormal person, being an avid ringside watcher, avid watcher of British fights, how do you think the world received that fight after all the hype, and then it ended up being just a plain old dud, and then being pay-per-view in the UK? How do you think, speaking for the UK, how do you think the UK felt about that?
I was gutted, man, and I know it's about the fight itself. It was about the whole night, You had lots of guys, don't forget we had the Cole Froch Groves fight at the beginning of the year, and it drew some attention to like a big UK fight scene, So, and then I think I follow on group of supporters from American fans who were like, wow, man, they have some real good shit going over there. And this must be a real good fight. And there was a pay-per-view debate on it, and it built up a lot of hype, and it was just, I think the UK fight fans as a whole were just terribly disappointed. The whole night was awful because we had a lot of stars on there, but they were all meaningless fights, really, that were sold to be good fights, and they were all boring. Everybody underperformed, and by the time you got to the main event, it was just a complete flop. It was disappointing. The whole thing just was a tiring nightmare. You were just tired and just unhappy at the end of it. It was terrible.
Yeah, that card was disappointing. The only fight that seemed to live up to it was DeGale versus Perrybond, and that was the fight of the night, in my opinion, at least what carried the card. We move on over to EJ Boxing. What was your disappointing fight of the year? EJ Boxing, go ahead.
EJ Boxing live, yeah. My disappointing fight of the year was Brandon Rios and Diego Chavez. That fight right there was a complete stinker, man, from the start, man. I mean, the two of them put on the most foul-filled fight you ever want to see, and it's like, boy, if I tell anyone yeah, go watch that fight. Bro, that would just turn people off boxing. It was terrible. Two of them fouling, lacing, blows. The referee had no control of the fight, the bout. It was terrible. I think Vic Jackaleff's taking points off the two of them. Everyone needs to mute, by the way, because I don't want to get no feedback. Yeah, like Chris Beach, you need to mute, yeah, if you can. Thanks very much, Beach. Yeah, like yeah, Vic Jackalef is trying to take points to warn these guys to control it, and the fight ended up stupidly. The fight ended up. I think it was Brandon Rios won but I think he won by the point. It was terrible. It was a foul-filled fight, and this is bad for boxing, to be honest with you. It's bad advertising for boxing, which you coming into that fight, you think it was going to be a great slugfest, man. Remember I was talking to Wire, me and Dwyer was talking about, and he's thinking, yeah, that fight ain't going to go the distance, and yeah, he nearly went the distance, but it was just terrible. So that's my fight, yeah. Diego Chavez versus Brandon Bam Bam Rios, disgusting fight of the year. That's just terrible. That's mine. That's
being that Diego Chavez versus Bam Bam Rios, that Chavez was up in the fight. Do you think, in your opinion, that it should have been stopped due to disqualification? You think that was a bad disqualification? What's your opinion on that, Errol?
I think it's a bad disqualification. Just let the stinking fight finish. Let it play out, man. It was terrible. But the referee, he had no control of the two fighters. He couldn't see what was going on. It was a bad disqualification. But the fight was stinking, and it's not that's one of the worst fights of the year. Bellew and Cleverly is stinking. That's a stinker as well. But to me, that was awful. And I'm glad I want to see nothing of it. Diego Chavez ain't that good. Brandon Rios, I don't know where he's gonna go. But yeah, that was bad. The referee, it was the wrong referee. First, they should have Steve Smoger in there. He didn't let them two bashed up each other, let them lace each other all day. He would have sat back. Me and Chris was watching one of the Video fights, and he stopped it early. But Smoger he's a Hall of Famer. He would have let them two kill each other.
Damn, so well.
Yeah. So that's our shit.
Speaking of Steve Smoger, like Errol mentioned, he's going into Hall of Fame this year, and he's my favorite referee. I think he's the best referee out there, and I think him going to Hall of Fame is well deserved. But let me move it over to Boxing Beats and Rhymes. What was your disappointing fight of the year? Beats and Rhymes, go ahead.
Well, Bellew and Fury was bad. Canelo and Lara was bad. But for me, Sean Porter and Kell Brook was terrible. Brook, to me, on a way to wasn't impressed as everyone else was. Just really wasn't impressed. Porter looked like an absolute two-fight novice in there, swinging wildly, no accuracy or guidance on his shots. I'm gonna go for Porter and Brook.
But being as that, I know you very well, and I know you had Porter winning that fight. What do you think that Porter should have done to negate the holding that Brook was doing to possibly make it more clear that he won the fight? And how do you feel about the fact that a person from the UK came into America and got a decision on a close fight, an obvious close fight?
I find it hard to believe that you can get that kind of decision on away turf. And I only looked at the fight once. It seemed to me that Porter was stifling his work and made it easy for Brook to tie him up like that. That's my remembrance of any of the events.
Okay, thank you very much, Beats. And I'm going to go to my disappointing fight of the year. Beats mentioned all the fights I was thinking about, but I'm going to be real biased. I'm going to go to my hometown and tell you when I was most disappointed this year. My most disappointing fight of the year, and nobody's going to be expecting this, was Zab Judah versus Paulie Malignaggi. And I'm going to tell you why. There's no way in any situation where Paulie Malignaggi, even though I got nothing but love for Paulie, because he's from my borough, thorough from my borough, there's no way Paulie should be backing up Zab Judah. And through that whole fight, Paulie was backing up Zab Judah like he was a power puncher. And that shit was pathetic, and it made me angry. And to this day, I will never watch that fight again. That was the most pathetic performance by Super Judah I've ever seen. And he needs to redeem himself from that. Otherwise, he can never go back to Brownsville.